Okay, party people, I've got a belly full of chocolate cookies and a cup full of coffee. Let's fucking do this. So, today we're looking at Lord of War, quite obviously, from the thumbnail there. And, I'd never seen this movie before. I'd had it recommended to me multiple times. Had seen, I believe it was Brandon Herrera, had done a review of it because he's a big fan of the AK, and after watching this, so am I. Though, technically, it's not AKs in this. Not in the one big scene, anyway. It's VZ-58s, which look very similar, but aren't. But in any case, we'll start where we need to start here. Oh, that's unfortunate. I hit the wrong button. There we are. So, we start off with an opening shot, and it's an amazing visual. Probably not created practically. I'm not 100% sure about that, having watched the entire movie, but I do suspect it's not practical. I suspect this is, at the very least, in this area. Oh, you can't see my cursor. Let me see if I can make that work a bit better. Properties, capture cursor, and capture cursor. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Let's go with properties again, and come back to here. Okay, and can you see my cursor now? No, you can't. Okay, fine. Well, in the area where it appears to run up the road, I'm going to guess that isn't actually real bullets. I suspect the black line from about where his feet are is where the bullets actually cut off, if they are in fact practical. Just wanted to point that out, just for the sake of pointing out. You know, I'm impressed with the set dressing, I guess would be the best way to put it. Let's see, what else have we got to choose from here? Not created practically, as I said, but this is a great image to show exactly what your movie is about. It's a businessman, technically fair, and on a field of bullets in front of a burning building. Yeah, absolutely fair. And this actually becomes important towards the end of the movie. Actually, at the very end of the movie. The opening credits, many people have talked about this life of a bullet sequence, and I understand completely, having watched it. It's got a really dark end, but there's a damn good reason there's a lot of praise for this sequence. This is just opening credits, and by itself, it tells a really good story. Let's see. Yeah, do you think the director meant for this to look like the character was at some sort of a crossroads? And yeah, to be fair, I mean, he's talking about Brighton Beach. As far as I know, this is in Brighton Beach. So yeah, I understand this. Also, by the way, this movie is 20 years old. So, it's kind of prescient in a way, given what happens to one of the people that this character is based off of. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Speaking of real people characters in this film are based off of, this fella over here on the right with the rather American military-looking bearing is based on a particular American figure. This character is called Colonel Oliver Southern. And I do want to say that I suspect he's a big fan of side-scrolling shooting games. Like, I don't know, Contra. And we'll just leave that hanging. One of the things I really did like about some of what was done in this movie, this gun is shown cycling and firing. And with each motion of the bolt, you hear a cash register, cha-ching. That's why it says ding at the bottom. And yeah, I absolutely loved that, because this was the point where the character was talking about how he was making money and things like that. Really good. There's another character besides Yuri. Yuri is the character that Nicolas Cage plays. Jared Leto plays his brother, Vitaly. And Vitaly is a tragicomic figure. emphasis on the tragic. But there are comedic moments as well. For example, do you think he might be Ukrainian? Yeah, Vitaly is a pretty tragic figure, which I did say was actually a good thing. I mean, someone who's kind of this much in the grip of an addiction, they should not be treated as anything other than a tragic figure. I actually really do appreciate Andrew Nichols' choice there to make him very much a tragic figure. Let's see here. Oh, fun fact. When they were setting up this shot, it occurred to the director, or to the production team at least, that maybe they should contact NATO to let them know nobody was actually mobilizing for war. You know your production is big when you have to be concerned about satellite images. Yeah, apparently the production had to notify NATO about the tanks, so they didn't think there was a real war mobilization happening. I do, however, love the very clear pro-capitalist message in this film. Yeah. What else did we have here? Oh, there's an interesting moment here. This is where Yuri and the arms dealer Simeon Weiss, if I remember correctly, he had approached Simeon at the Berlin Arms Fair. Excuse me, I want to say 3 years before this, give or take. It's a little... The timeline in this film is a little foggy. A little difficult to follow. Sorry, I just have to move a piece of equipment there. But the timeline is a little bit difficult to follow at times. But Ian Holm and Nicolas Cage sharing a moment is probably one of the best cinematic experiences you could have. And there are actually a lot of really, really good dialogues in this movie. Cage, with one exception that will come up, plays this character perfectly. It's insanely compelling. Yeah, you want to like Yuri. You really do. Which kind of probably says something about the audience themselves on a very deep level. Let's see. Yeah, the interesting moment here. I have to wonder, is Yuri a mad dog, agent of chaos type, or is Simeon simply a coward? Well, there's a little bit of both there. One of the things this movie does do well is to raise questions that you don't really have clean answers to. Unless you're a very, very not literal-minded, but if you're very... definitive in your moral thinking. We'll put it that way. If you have very defined ideas of what is moral and what is not, this movie probably won't change that, and it probably won't raise those questions for you. But if you have any sort of a philosophical leaning when it comes to certain parts of morality, it does bring up some questions. Let's see here. Oh, this scene. Yeah, I did say this scene illustrates the filmmaker's love for guns beautifully. And I will point out, Andrew Nichols both wrote and directed this movie. Generally, that's a sign that it's not a good movie, in my experience anyway. But I've seen a few movies recently where writer and director is the same guy. I'm willing to give it a pass up until the point where it's writer, director, and star. Once you get to that point, that ego kind of tends to make for bad movie making. Feel free to, contradict me in the comments if I'm wrong. Let's see. Where am I here? Yeah, this scene beautifully illustrates the filmmaker's love for guns. It's basically a sonnet to the AK, and I did actually have to go and look up what type of a poem is directed at the subject of one's love, and a sonnet is what came back. So, yeah, this is definitely a sonnet to the AK. And, yeah, I understand completely. Now, this, as I said, he's probably holding a VZ-58 here, but all the same, it's a love letter to guns. This scene, anyway. And I repeatedly wrote down excellent interplay between Hawk and Cage, because there are several really great scenes between them. That said, there is a character, or several characters actually, who are pretty much 100% reprehensible. For example, Andre Baptiste Jr. He, how did I put it? Andre Baptiste Jr. might be a bit of an Ameriphile. Can't imagine why one would think that. He's got a gold gun and Dallas Cowboys? No, Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders costumes on his horse. Yeah. Let's see. Andre Baptiste, the father, is apparently based on Charles Taylor. A lot of this is supposed to be set in Liberia. Liberia wasn't a French-speaking country, though this film does pretend that it is. Wasn't or isn't. Liberia, I think, is still around. There's a very clever sequence here, which, this is the result of the sequence, where Yuri talks about under narration. And the narration in this is really unobtrusive. It really makes sense in this film. But during their narration, right before this moment, Yuri talks about how sometimes he has to do things without paperwork. And that made him very desperate at one point, to the point that he went to the extent of landing a plane on, well, they called it a highway. I think it's just a road, my friend. Matter of fact, it's a dirt road. But they landed on the dirt road, and when the co-pilot ran off to avoid being busted, Yuri had the good sense to simply open the back door and tell everybody to take what they wanted. Worked out well, up until, he was left cuffed, sitting in this position. And there was a wonderful time-lapse of a plane being completely stripped almost to nothing. Yeah. Though I wonder how fictitious that is, as much as I wonder about how fictitious the solution to being caught in the air was, without paperwork. A little later on, Yuri has a... how did I put this? A dark night of the soul, a trip, a vision. He's experiencing a poetic image, or there is poetic imagery used here, where the director basically has a shot of two hyenas, scavengers, which basically welcome him almost, or treat him almost as if he's one of their own. That's some powerful imagery there, and you would think it would result in a little better introspection in the character. Not so much. Though, I guess one could see it as, if one wanted to couch it in new agey terms, the universe attempting to send him a sign. A frigging neon sign. This kind of didn't ring quite true to me. This scene here, I really don't understand why a U.S. Government agent would do this, because, a wife can't be compelled to testify against her husband. So what was Valentine doing? Like, what was the purpose of his coming here, other than to plant doubts and sow discord in a marriage? Which, it's a dirty tactic, but I'm sure police officers do far worse sometimes. Government agents, whatever, crusaders, what have you. Now, that's one of the things with Valentine, too. He is very much a crusader type. He is very much of the opinion that I am doing righteous work. And I guess that kind of gives him conscience-wise carte blanche to do as he pleases. Speaking of... not really carte blanche, but dirty tactics. The wife then decides to follow Yuri. The one note I put down about this is Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah, which is my least favorite version of my favorite Cohen song. Sorry, Jeff Buckley fans, I know, but I like Jeff Buckley's music, but that one song he did not do right. But yeah, I found that this moment ended up being personally poignant for me because of that song. Just betrayal all the way around. The image here is definitely the devil hanging over his brother's shoulder, isn't it? That's one of the things with the imagery in this film. whether it's the director or the cinematographer, it's wonderfully shot for storytelling, especially with the costuming and such like this. Let's see, where am I here? This is number 19, no 18. What did I say? Yeah, the devil on his brother's shoulder. Liberia. Liberia is like Cuba in this movie, only for French, at least according to this film. That is an old, I believe it's a Peugeot, but I'm not 100% sure. No, actually, come to think of it, I think it's a Citroen. Or Citroen. Yeah. Kind of the same way that Cuba does American vehicles, Liberia apparently does French. I have no basis one way or the other to know, so yeah. This may have been just a piece of artifice for the film. Let's see. Oh, this is, as I mentioned earlier, the one point where it didn't make sense to me. Yuri is 100% aware that the character that he's talking to is a dangerous, unpredictable, and murderous individual, and yet he still shouts and swears at him. What? That's the moment that broke my suspension of disbelief. This line broke my suspension of disbelief. Baptiste struck me as mad enough to kill for this kind of insult. Yeah. Speaking of Baptiste and family, little bastard Baptiste finally got his gun of Rambo. It's a bit of a recurring thing, so yeah, I did want to mention it. And it's played for a bit of laugh here in this part of the shot. What he's shooting at, not so much. And there's a lot of really dark content in this. This is not a film for kids or sensitive people. It's ironic. One of the lines in the film is, the bullet that got me arrested was the one that was under my brother's ribs. Yeah, Vitaly comes to a bad end, which, I'm sorry, you could have seen that coming 10,000 miles off. It could go no other way for Vitaly, which is a shame. I actually liked Vitaly. Loyal brother, you know, bit too much of a bon vivant, but as somebody who struggled with substance abuse issues myself, I can relate. Let's see, 23. Again, great scenes between Hawk and Cage. This especially is a great scene which has an amazingly perfect payoff. And speaking of the payoff, as far as I'm concerned, this is where the film ended. Everything else after this is epilogue. And yeah, I'm kind of getting through this a little quicker than I normally do when it comes to these. But yeah, after this moment, everything else is epilogue. And then we end where we began, in front of the burning building, in a street covered in bullets. And I'm, again, like I said earlier, I don't know if this wasn't practical or not, but that's a lot of friggin' shell casings. Then again, who knows? And there is a little bit of a message at the end where they talk about how the 5 biggest arms dealers in the world are the US, the UK, France, Russia, and China. Yeah. And that is what it is. So, yeah. Anyway, let me see. Recommendation. I absolutely recommend you watch this movie. If you've never seen it, you will enjoy it. If you have seen it, watch it again. You might see something new. There's a fair bit of sex, some nudity in this film. There's a lot of killing. A lot of it is very brutally portrayed, which it should be. Though there is one scene where there's an attack with machetes that does not quite make sense, given the amount of gore other killings have, that there's no gore visible afterwards. But I'm guessing that may have either been a budget issue or something to do with the conditions they were shooting in, because I do believe it was shot in Africa, though I'm not 100% sure of that. But in any case, if you want a recommendation a ranking, it's hard to give this any less than a 9. I'm thinking now. the one line where I believe it was this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. No, this one, this one, this one. Sorry, so many tabs, so little time. But this one moment, this feels like either Cage chose to go in a direction that he maybe shouldn't have with the dialogue, or the writer and director maybe made a bad choice. This is very much out of character for Yuri. Yeah, I honestly don't know for sure. I kind of want to give it a 9.5, really. It's such a really, really well done film. I kind of have to stick to the 9.5, actually. Do I recommend it? Fuck yeah. It is an amazingly good movie. So yeah, if you want to watch a good movie that's free to find, you can find this on Plex. So yeah, I will have this posted as fast as I can, and then I will be doing some Newfoundland news tomorrow. I'll be in chat for Discordant Dragons at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And yeah, if you want, pop in, say hi, hang out with Yiz and the crew, and maybe you'll enjoy that too. In any case, folks, I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to do well. And as always, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye. Hello, party people. So, you've probably just finished watching one of my videos, and I appreciate your time. That said, if you're watching on YouTube, because they've changed the way they evaluate their views, I need to ask a favor. You need to commit some form of engagement in order for me to have it count as a view, because for some reason YouTube no longer thinks watching something counts as a view. They need some form of engagement to prove you actually watched it. So, like, comment, follow, share, subscribe. Any of those things would be appreciated. Other than that, if you want to support me, and this would help me with endeavors across all the platforms I do my content creation on, you can look at Ko-Fi, which is right there in the ticker right at the moment, or you can go over to my Redbubble and pick up some merchandise there. The designs that have been flashing on screen for a while are examples of the designs that I have. You can pick these up on a variety of different products, and yeah, I'll probably end up leaving them up. Though, from time to time, I will put up something that will be time limited. Some of the designs, the Walrus King especially, for example, I intend to leave up all the time because I just love that, and my Ardent Plays logo is for my other Rumble channel. Other than that, I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to do well. And as always, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.